Right, matrix, let's have another look at examples of cubic equations. How about this one? Solve for x. 2x cubed minus 6x minus 4 is equal to 0. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to solve for x. And what we can do is we can say, well, okay, it's cubic. The solutions would be possible. Well, they would be, if there are solutions, they'd be factors of 4. So we write down the factors of 4 and we test to see which one is going to be a solution. Okay, now if you take the equation, this 2x cubed minus 6x minus 4, what we possibly could do is divide everybody by the common factor 2. So let's make it simple for ourselves by dividing throughout by 2. Okay, now we've got a test. So we've divided, we've made it simple. Which of these 6 factors are going to be solutions to the equation? So should I try x equals 1? Let's see. So try x equals 1. So what does that give us? 1 cubed minus 3 times 1 minus 2. What does that equal? Well, it's 1 minus 3 is negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. It's not equal to the right side, which is 0, so this is not a solution. Okay, no problem. That's not going to work for us. Let's try x is negative 1. Okay, so try x is equal to negative 1. Let's see what we get substituted in, and let's see what we get. Okay, negative 1, negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3 minus 2. Okay, so that, look at this. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2, minus 2 is 0. What a pleasure. I've got a beautiful little 0 there, or 0, or solution they call it as well, root. Okay, so x equals minus 1 is my solution. What a pleasure. So how do we get the linear factor? If we bring that across, we get our factor. Here it is, our linear factor. And we can then say, okay, let's go to our cubic equation. Let's write it down. X cubed minus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. And we've got ourselves a linear factor. How do we get the quadratic? Well, what is x cubed divided by x is x squared. What is negative 2 over 1 is going to be negative 2. And we've got our missing middle term there in the quadratic factor. Now let's check. X times x squared is x cubed. Good. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Now we just need to work and get the middle terms. Okay, now, if you take this, we normally like connecting the x squareds. Okay, so let me see, how does it work? Well, if you think about it, x times x squared gives you a cube thing. Then we've got x times mx, which is nice. That's mx squared. Great. Okay. And then x times negative 2, well, that's a term in x. Now we come here and we get 1 times x squared, which is 1x squared. Great. That's all we need. We're not going to worry about the 1 times mx or the 1 times negative 2. We've got what we want. But what do you notice here? There is no term in x squared. Okay, so this seems a bit of a problem. So what do we need to do? We need to add in a term here. And what your cubic will look like is something like this. It'll be x cubed plus, so we put the 0 to x squared. There's no term in x squared. So you write no. There's no x squared term. Then we've got negative 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. So you're always going to add in the 0x squared if it's not there. So this is going to be 0x squared. You don't want a term in x squared. And what would m have to be? Well, clearly negative 1. So if you think about it, what we could then do is say, well, if mx squared plus 1x squared is 0x squared, well then m plus 1 is 0, and what would that be then? M is equal to negative 1, which is true, because negative 1x squared plus 1x squared is 0x squared. So there we have it. So we can go back to our little linear factor thing there, linear, and then the quadratic, and put in the m, and then we've got the minus 2. Let's just Let's check that quickly. Minus 2. There we go. So let's just recap a little bit on this. What we did is we started with our cubic. We wrote down the factors of 4, the constant term. We simplified the cubic to make it easier to work with. We tested 1. It didn't work. Minus 1 gave us 0, which meant it was a solution. And we popped the minus 1 across, and we got ourselves our factor. Then we went x cubed over x is x squared, negative 2 over 1 is negative 2, and we put in the missing middle term mx. Then you connect the x squareds terms by going 1x squared mx squared, and remember there's a missing term here, so what do? We slot in 0x squared, and that's our missing term in x squared. And then we say, okay, the mx squared plus the 1x squared is the 0x squared. Drop the x squareds, m plus 1 is 0, m is minus 1, and replace it back. Now the rest is pretty straightforward, because all you have to do is factorize the quadratic factor there, and off you go. It works nicely. You can use the formula as well, the quadratic formula, if you so wish. X is minus 1, or x is 2, or you have a repeated answer, x is minus 1. You don't have to write them twice. Just remember that there's 3 solutions in this game of cubic equations. Alright, now people, just to recap, I've got a wonderful way of dealing with this. It's called the smiley face method that I use. And how it works is this. When you've got your linear factor, and then you've got your missing middle term, and you've got here, let's have a look at this, whatever it is. Let's make it, okay, so this would have been, let's make it up quickly, or let's go back and check here. What was it? It was x plus 1, and then mx, where was it? Let's go back there, minus 2. Okay, there we go. Now that equals 0. Now don't worry about this. This was actually plus 1, so I'm just going to make it plus 1 there. Okay, just for the sake of, doesn't really matter, but just show you a point here. What happens here is you've got the x squared terms are connected like that and like that. Okay, now I call this a smiley face. That's a 1x squared mx squared. Notice mx squared plus 1x squared, and was equal to the 0x squared. But look at this. I've got a little smiley face that's smiling at you, saying hello. So when you connect, all you do is you put the little head on there and the little mouth, and there's your smiley face. Okay, and you can easily do it. It's quite a cute way of doing it. Okay, should we try another example using this, what I call the smiley face method? Let's have a look at this. 2x cubed minus x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, now again, you probably could have used the technique of grouping. You could have tried that. It's always a good thing. But let's use the inspection method and see what we get. Well, what are the factors of 4? 1, 2, and 4. Okay, now let's try some. Maybe, can I go to the one that works? Let's try x equals 2. Let's see that. I'm just going to select 2 at random there. Let's see if it works. 2 cubed. Let's substitute it into the left side, and let's hopefully see if it's a solution. Well, what's that? That's 8. 2 cubed is 8 times 2 is 16. 2 squared is 4 minus 16 plus 4. Guess what? 16's cancel, and there the 4's cancel. It's 0. So you've got yourself a wonderful solution. So if you've got a solution, we can say if it's a solution, bring it across, we get a factor. There we go. If we take it across, is a factor. And remember, if you rewrite the cubic quickly, you've got 2x cubed minus x squared minus 8x plus 4 is 0. Okay, what is the factor? Is x minus 2. Now let's get our quadratic here. Okay, what's 2x cubed divided by x is 2x squared. 4 over negative 2 is negative 2. And we've got our missing term there, the mx. Okay, now I'm going to do a little smiley face to get me my x squared terms. So there's my mouth, and my little head there. Okay, and that gives me my little smiley face there. So what is it? It gives you mx squared minus 4x squared is equal to, now what is the term in x squared in the original? Minus 1x squared. There we go. Look how easy this is. Drop those x squareds, and m is equal to negative 1 plus 4 is 3. Okay, and then we can go back to our brackets there. The linear factor, the quadratic, that's m is 3 minus 2. And then you can simply factorize or use the quadratic formula. And what does that give us? 2x minus 5, or 2x minus 1, should I say. Let's just do that quickly. 2x minus 1. Let's make it a 1 there. So it's going to be a nice 1. And then this is going to give me what's that? X plus 2. Alright, and check it there. Alright, so it's 2x squared minus 1 times 2 gives you that, and then 4 minus 1. So there we go. So we've got x minus 2 is 0, or 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. That's just a 1 there, and then x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then you can solve for x. You've got x is 2, or x is equal to a half, or x is equal to negative 2 there. And there we go. And so factorize it. The formula is quite nice as well.